Now, I'm interested to know your reaction to those local elections, because what we saw was kind of areas of the country that have been, Labour for many years, turning blue. Places like Nottinghamshire, for example, where lots of people sort of switched to the Conservatives. What do you think is happening? Why do you think that is?
I think they know that Labour is absolutely busted. It can offer them nothing. And people are turning to us. A lot of it is because of Theresa May. It is as simple as that. They trust her as a leader, they like what they see, and they have no doubt that she's the only person that can't just get us a deal in Brexit, but actually build us a great future for our economy beyond Brexit, and people get that. That's what I'm getting back from the doorstep. I've actually not heard one bad word against Theresa May, and yes, I do knock on all doors in all areas. It's fascinating. People trust her, they like her, and they think she's, dare I say, strong and stable leadership.
Can we make a deal that that's the last time you say strong and stable leadership in this interview, please?
Do you know what? I really object to the idea, no disrespect to you, that Britain's media now decides whether or not parties can use slogans.
Well, we haven't seemed to be doing a very good job of it, given the amount of times the strong and stable is being wheeled out.
Yeah, but all parties in all elections have slogans. It's funny, isn't it? Nobody ever said anything against Tony Blair when he was using slogans in 1997. The people who will decide whether it's
bingo for Tony Blair's slogans back in 1997.
No, but the only people who matter in this are people actually watching this, people who will vote, or maybe not vote, but people who electors. They are the only people that matter. And no disrespect to you, of course, I think you're very good, but I think Britain's media really kind of needs to get a grip on who and what they are. It's the people that matter, not the media.
OK, well, I'm happy that you disincluded me from that slur on my colleagues, but anyway. Now, the other thing that we saw in those locals was the Conservatives hoovering up an awful lot of former UKIP voters. Now, as someone who is one of the most loud pro-EU voices in your own party, does that make you a bit uncomfortable that the kind of nature of your party is changing?
And the nature of my party is not changing.
Are you sure?
Absolutely. And I'm confident of that because I'm confident in Theresa May, who is a one-nation Conservative. I remember the words that she used on Downing Street on the evening that she moved in. And I feel very secure in her leadership. Look, a lot of those UKIP voters in this county were, of course, Labour voters. And the interesting thing is that they've not returned to the Labour fold. They're coming to the Conservative fold. So when I look at a town like Eastwood, which is very much like my own hometown of Worksop in North Nottinghamshire, a mining town, Eastwood voted Conservative. I mean, it is astonishing that we won Eastwood, a pit village, a pit town in this county. One of the big
reasons that these former UKIP voters, many of them, as you say, come from Labour, some from the Conservatives previously, one of the big reasons they are lining up behind Theresa May is because they trust her to deliver what they want to see on Brexit, which is something that you don't agree with their views. You don't think that we should be coming out of the single market. You don't think that we should be playing hardball.
Oh, look, don't kid yourself that all those UKIP voters, all of them, man and woman, said, we don't want to be in the single market, we want this. This doesn't work like that at all. And I think
they want what some people are describing a hard Brexit, which is a term I know that it's been.
You cannot say that everybody that voted Leave or all UKIP voters don't want to be in the single market or don't want this, that and the other, because they come in all shapes and sizes with all views. What they are united about is us leaving the EU. And what I'm getting from the doorstep, and it is different, if I may say, to London. That's why I think it's brilliant that you're here and you're not trapped in that London bubble, is that here, what people want actually is just to move on now. And the idea that you're a Remainer or a Leaver, you're this or you're in or out, actually people are moving on. They've accepted, like me, the result. As indeed Margaret Beckett was saying, she and I don't agree very much. We didn't want us to be in this position, but we are where we are. And now we've got to get the very best deal. And there's only one person who's going to stand any chance of getting that good deal, and that's Theresa May.
You say that. This week it does feel as though relationships between Number 10 and Brussels have somewhat become fraught, shall we say, in a polite way of putting it. Theresa May effectively accused Brussels of meddling in the EU election, in the UK election. I mean, that might win her some votes on the doorstep. It might be a good way of attracting UKIP voters. But it's not a great negotiating strategy, is it?
We're not negotiating at the moment.
Oh, come on. We are negotiating.
No, we're not actually in the negotiating strategy at the moment. Circumstances at the moment. Look, these are opening salvos. It's like those boxers that, they do all that stuff before they actually get in the ring.
But it's not going to be forgotten, though, isn't it? It's not going to be simply forgotten when those negotiations start.
No, honestly, I just think that this is a bit of a puff, and we are in a general election, and so I wouldn't have used those terms, but the Prime Minister she's getting out there. She wants to win well. There's nothing wrong with that, and so she's doing what she can to gather people behind her to get a good result, and then move on into those negotiations when all sorts of things will have to change, because that's the nature of negotiations. And it's going to be tough. That's why Theresa May is the only person who can do it.
Now, it's reported that the government is working on a strategy, what should happen if there is no deal. And I think certainly from some of the language coming out of Jean-Claude Juncker's office perhaps indicates that is something that's looking increasingly likely. Do you still think that is a bad idea if there is no deal?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we want a deal. As Theresa May said, she wants a deal as well. And no deal would be a very bad deal, in my opinion. I don't demur from that at all.
If Theresa May does get the majority that many people expect at the election, your influence is going to be reduced, doesn't it?
Is it?
Well, if you think about it, it does feel sometimes to an outsider as though Conservative backbenchers are kind of providing a sort of unofficial opposition to some of the policies.
Well, that's because we've got such a useless Labour Party. I mean, you should not underestimate the concern on the doorstep that people have about the state of the Labour Party.
Are you worried about it as well?
What, the Labour? Oh, yeah. Because you want a good opposition. You want a good, strong opposition. Of course you do. It's important for our democracy. And people get that. But they are by no means foolish about this. They see the Labour Party for what it is. And it is in the most terrible state. And it's a state of their own making. So what you'll see in this election is you'll see Labour MPs who are desperate to cling on for understandable reasons. And they will be saying on the doorstep, we've already seen it here in Nottingham South, where Lillian Greenwood is the incumbent Labour MP. And the slogan is, vote local, vote Labour, vote Lillian. And you will see that all over the country. They will say, as they did in the local elections, oh, don't worry about Jeremy Corbyn. It's not about Jeremy Corbyn. It's all about Fred or Frida, whoever the Labour candidate is. It's about them. And people are not stupid. They know it's not about that. It's about who do you want as your Prime Minister? Do you want Jeremy Corbyn or Theresa May? And overwhelmingly, they'll say Theresa May. And I think also people get this thing about her having a mandate. It's not just about Brexit. A mandate for herself as our Prime Minister, to have her own clear mandate, makes complete sense. To be elected as a Prime Minister on a manifesto we can all rally behind.
If she does become elected as a Prime Minister and increase her majority, as the polls and the local elections suggest she will, you've said you're worried about the state of Labour, that they're not providing any opposition. Your ability as a Conservative backbencher to provide that scrutiny and opposition will also be diminished, because she can effectively ignore you on things like Brexit or grammar schools, because she will have enough people to get those votes through Parliament. So that can't be good for democracy,
no,
can it?
I don't agree at all. I think the Conservative Party has always been a broad church, but there is this unity behind her to get this good Brexit deal. And people like me will continue to scrutinise and ask questions on behalf of our constituents. And the idea that the right will take over is not the case. I think that part of the decision for her to call this general election and to get a good, healthy majority, which is good for government actually, is because she will want to see off some of those elements within the Conservative Party who do want that hard Brexit, which she doesn't want. So I think it strengthens her hand within the party and in the parliamentary party, and I have no difficulty with that at all. She's a one-nation Tory like I am.
But you say that it strengthens her hands against the Brexiteers, or the kind of
right,
the hard-line right of the party, is maybe you would describe it. But it also means she doesn't have to worry so much about pesky rebellions from the more centrist MPs like yourself as well, realistically, doesn't it?
To some extent, but then, people like me, I think that I have a very happy home in the Tory party. My politics, you may think this is a bit sad, but my politics haven't changed for 40-odd years.
Has your party's politics changed, though?
They actually have improved considerably in my time, absolutely. And they changed, actually, the person who began to lay those foundations was Theresa May. When she was chairman of the Conservative Party, she brought more women in. She started the reforms that made us more electable. In due course, David Cameron came in, and he made us as well electable, and now she is continuing that great work.
I'm interested to know your thoughts about the election campaign so far. We've seen almost like a policy a day from Labour. We've got a new one in the newspapers this morning about tax. Jeremy Corbyn has been taking lots of questions, giving interviews. From the Conservatives, though, it almost feels as though you're just not doing very much at all. There's been not many policies. Theresa May hasn't been doing very many interviews. Do you think that that is a good way to treat the electorate? Because it makes sense from the perspective of, not doing very much and hopefully coasting to victory.
The only people who are
it's a bit insulting
about this
for voters, isn't it?
No, it's not. The only because we're out on the doorstep every day.
But what are you saying? What are the policies?
So I think it's really important, this. So out in the real world, out there, we're on the doorstep every day, unlike Labour, I might add, because they can't get the people out to knock on the doors in the way that we are.
Well, they would dispute that, I think.
But... No, of course they would. But that's where, look at the results, but that's where you win and lose elections. And I think it is brilliant that finally, after years of these dreadful election campaigns, where somebody feels that every day you've got to make a statement, and all over the country people are yawning, it's great for you guys, because it gives you footage and it gives you copy and everything else. But in the real world, it turns people off. And I think her strategy of speaking only when she's got something important to say is fabulous, and it's refreshing. And I'm also delighted that we're not having those dreadful TV debates. I'm sorry, it doesn't help you guys because it means you've got holes in your schedules and so on and so forth. But for people out there, I think they love it. And the real world
there are millions of people who tuned into the TV debates may disagree with that.
Millions more didn't tune in. And the highlight of how it was so bad was in the referendum campaign. I mean, it was a bleak moment. It wasn't your side, your channel, that staged that dreadful debate from Wembley, wasn't it? It was on the BBC. And it was the lowest moment ever in British politics.
Wow.
It was ghastly. It was dreadful stuff. So put it on the stump, on the doorstep. That's where this election we won and lost. And that's how Theresa May campaigns. And she does it very well.
Happy to end it there. Thank you, Anna Soubry.